From the Cactus, KCTS-FM Phoenix, I'm Jamison Greenwood with Greenwood & Company. Well, Happy New Year, everybody. It's great to be back with you. This is our first show of 2026. Also, there are still a few more days of Christmas. I believe it's the 9th day of Christmas today, because it's the 10th day, so we'll get the 10 Lords a-leaping, as the song says. I didn't do a whole lot for the new year. I played some games with the family on New Year's Eve. That's what I usually do. But I remember one time Heather and Annabelle and a couple of their theater friends went back to their hometown of San Diego for the new year, and they had quite an evening, especially in regards to this, we'll call it a robot. One winter I decided to spend the new year in the Arizona high country with my friends Gabe and Harper from the newspaper, along with Colton, whom I knew from church, as well as a barista at Brubeck's coffee shop. New Year's Day fell on a Saturday that year, so other than doing a New Year's episode of my radio show, The Jazz Bookstore, I spent most of the day in a state of decompression. It wound up being a rather depressing day, mainly because I was missing Annabelle, who, along with her cousin Heather, had gone to their hometown of San Diego for the new year, and though they spent most of their time in the high country when school was in session, I feared that her green eyes might have been stolen by the charms of some bushy-haired California surfer dude, or worse, a bushy-haired California surfer dude who played vibraphone, piano, or Gibson in the style of Joe Negri or George Benson, irresistible to a saxophone virtuoso like Annabelle. My Saturday show cheered me up a bit, and the next morning I went to St. Edward's Episcopal Church with Colton, after which we walked together to Brubeck's coffee shop so he could begin his noon shift. "Happy New Year, guys!" exclaimed Heather, who'd been working since Brubeck's opened that morning. She was preparing a caramel macchiato for her cousin, Annabelle, who was sitting at the counter in front of her. Annabelle turned and graced us with a reserved, smiling Happy New Year in her transfixing sage-green eyes. While Colton put on his apron and clocked himself into the timesheet system, Heather made me my usual, a cup of hot coffee with cream, and brought me a delicious red Christmas scone with white glaze and red and green sprinkles, 50% off because it was after Christmas. "How was your Christmas, Jimmy?" Annabelle asked. I explained that it was about like it always was, with our tradition of dancing around the Christmas tree, as the Danish do, and my dad setting up a Christmas train layout. Annabelle explained her Christmas, spent with Heather in their hometown of San Diego, was all the indispensable traditions, but similarly low-key. "But New Year's was an adventure," exclaimed Heather. Annabelle rolled her eyes. "It sure was." "What happened?" asked Colton. Then a customer came in asking for a pumpkin latte, so the girls waited until after he was finished to begin the story. "Well," began Annabelle, "we hung out with some old high school friends." "Oh," I said in a polite, acknowledging way, but inside I felt as if my arteries were jamming before a potential heart attack. I feared that obscure surfer dude might creep into the story. He had become for me what heffalumps are to Winnie the Pooh. "We decided to go hang out by Seaport Village," explained Heather. "Get dinner somewhere, celebrate by the harbor." "Who all was with you?" I asked. "Well, Kelly from our high school," said Annabelle, "and her boyfriend Griffin." I was relieved knowing that there was no sign of a boyfriend for Annabelle, but I knew we weren't out of the woods yet. "So we look up places at Seaport Village. They've got these cool counter service places, but Griffin suggested we should do a fancier place because it was New Year's Eve," Heather told us. "I saw this 2-story place built of gray wood," added Annabelle, "called the Pescado Palace, and they were having a New Year's special on jumbo shrimp, so we decided to give it a try." As they walked to the restaurant, they noticed a series of buskers, not an uncommon sight in a place like Seaport Village and other tourist attractions. Up until that afternoon, I thought the strangest one I'd ever heard of was an accordion player dressed like a turn-of-the-century newsboy singing My Wild Irish Rose that Colton had seen in Pike's Market. But what Heather, Annabelle, and their friends saw topped it. A man all dressed in silver clothes, aluminum foil on his shoes, and silver makeup upon his face with a blue ball cap and blue wristbands, making himself out to look like a robot. Small children were inserting dollar bills into the cardboard box he was standing on, and for 15 seconds he would dance in a jilted, robotic fashion. "We only saw him in passing," added Heather, "but he was pretty convincing," said Annabelle. From there, Heather, Annabelle, Kelly, and Griffin went into Pescado Palace, which Annabelle described in a way that I imagine the Krusty Krab would be if Mr. Krabs was less afraid to spend his money. For a moment, I got distracted from fear of Annabelle getting romanced and looked it up on Google. The booths were all decorated in a button-stitched leather the color of fresh black olives, the lighting fixtures resembled clamshells, and they had sea-green cloth napkins and a variety of excellent-looking crustaceans. "Seems like a nice place, this Pescado Palace," I opined. "Looks super tasty," added Colton when I showed him the phone. Annabelle giggled. "Yeah, it looks super tasty." "Oh, it wasn't?" I said. "Well," Heather rolled her eyes, "when we first went over there, they asked us what kind of water we wanted, but the choices were bottle or tap." "I would think it would be mineral or sparkling, something like that," I said. "That's what I thought, too," Annabelle agreed. Heather went on to describe a host of other flaws at Pescado Palace, such as the feeling of cola which had been spilled and not clean sticking to the bottom of her tennis shoes, a booth across the way where an obvious rip had not been rectified and foam was sticking out, and that the complimentary biscuits were hard as rocks, impossible to chew. When the first course came, the clam chowder, which Heather and Griffin both ordered, was colder than a Minnesota winter, and the Caesars that Annabelle and Kelly ordered were both sparing in their greens, which had a sour taste. "We were out of lettuce," the server explained, "so we had to use cabbage instead." This explained without a single ounce of apology, or perhaps a deeply held conviction that cabbage and lettuce are in fact interchangeable vegetables. While the other three ordered the jumbo shrimp special they were advertising, Annabelle ordered a lobster roll, which, like me, she expected would be served hot, but it was served cold. "Should have been hot," I exclaimed, hoping in a subconscious way this might win Annabelle over. "Anyhow," Heather chimed in, "we all thought at that point, we've got to get out of here." Before I reveal whether or not Heather, Annabelle, and their friends were able to escape that awful Pescado Palace, we have to take a short break, but when we come back, we will reveal whether or not they escaped, and we'll also check in on the mysterious aluminum foil busker. You are listening to Greenwood and Company on KCTS. We all know why you moved to the Sonoran Desert, to get away from the snow and see the sturdy saguaros grow. Sure, they don't need more than a drop of water every 5 to 10 years, but without proper nutritious soil, they won't grow nearly as tall and the spines won't grow nearly sharp enough to deter the thieves that want to break in to steal your credit cards, phones, and stool samples. That's where Carl Pfeiffer's cactus fertilizer comes in. It's a patented blend of goat manure, pine mulch, honeybee stingers, and fiberglass insulation designed to make your cactus grow taller, greener, and with ever sharper, more pain-inducing spines. Warning, Carl Pfeiffer's cactus fertilizer is known to cause dysentery in Delaware and venereal disease in Vermont. Should be utilized only on succulents. Use on vegetation from temperate climates may lead to irreversible damage to deciduous ecosystems and somehow may trigger earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Carl Pfeiffer's cactus fertilizer, strengthening the beauty of the desert and also its dangers. And welcome back. You are listening to Greenwood and Company on the Cactus, KCTS. Now, after Heather and Annabelle and their two friends, Griffin and Kelly, had such a disappointing experience at the restaurant, they decided to split for it as soon as they could. "So we're all thinking," Heather said, "what if we get food poisoning, or something like that?" when Kelly remembered there's a Ben & Jerry's at Seaport Village. So we paid the bill, and we split. The quartet of theater kids walked to the counter service Ben & Jerry's, Kelly and Griffin getting scoops of Cherry Garcia in cups, Heather a scoop of chocolate-covered strawberry in a sugar cone, and Annabelle a scoop of caramel chocolate cheesecake in a waffle cone. As they ate their ice creams and looked for something to do, they came upon the silver robot busker again, and Griffin thought of putting a $5 bill into the box, but when Kelly saw an ad for a boat ride into the bay for only $45, he decided to save his $5 so they could pool their money together to pay for the boat. "We found this old sea captain," said Heather, "and he was right in the marina by Seaport Village, and he invited us to come on his yacht." "How was it?" asked Colton. "Little old," Annabelle said. It was all covered in wood paneling on the inside, but still a nice cozy boat. The captain, who called himself Davy Rogers, but other than his name and maritime outfit was the most unconvincing sailor you'd ever meet, took them out to a nice remote spot between Seaport Village and Coronado Island where the gang could watch some fireworks to bring in the new year. Captain Davy offered beers to them all, but they preferred to stick with their ice creams, and Captain got all the beer to himself, so he eventually fell asleep. "We thought something was up with the engine," Annabelle said, "but it was just the captain snoring." "But then," said Heather, "we discovered there was something wrong with the engine." As it turned out, there was a shipment of Australian Fremantle octopus that had somehow escaped from a cargo boat in Los Angeles, and among some that swam down to San Diego, one of them managed to get itself caught in the propeller of Captain Davy's yacht. Now, none of them knew anything about how to pilot a boat, but when Heather saw the tentacles in the propeller, she began to scream. The news story about the octopus from Australia only caught her eye in passing on her phone, but that first thing she thought of when it came to octopi in Australia was the small but deadly blue-ringed octopus, whose bites are impossible to feel, but whose venom can kill in an instant. "I'm freaking out," Heather said, and Annabelle was freaking out, so Kelly and Griffin decided they'd just take us back to shore since the captain was asleep. The ride was a bit turbulent without an expert sailor and the octopus jamming the propeller, but they all managed to keep their ice cream down until they made it back to shore. By the time the four of them reached Seaport Village, it was 11:59, so they waited for the fireworks to shoot off and welcome in the new year with a group hug and a chorus of Auld Lang Syne. This awoke Captain Davy Rogers, who complained of the noise, but upon discovering the octopus in his motor, oddly smiled, and gathered it up into a plastic bag to shove in his freezer as food for his cat. "Wasn't a blue ring after all," Heather sighed. "I was going to have a heart attack if it was a blue ring," Annabelle added. "This left me disappointed, as while I don't wish Annabelle ill, it would have been nice to have broken her fall and given her mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, but never mind, forget I said that. Annabelle, I apologize if you're listening. Well, once the new year began, the sidewalk started to roll up, so Heather, Annabelle, Griffin, and Kelly decided to go home in Heather's Subaru. Naturally, this brought them once more past the aluminum foil robot busker, who by now was being watched by a pair of children in about first or second grade. One of them put a $1 bill in the box, but the owner was holding a stick. It seemed only natural that at that age the simple curiosity of a branch that had washed up on the beach somehow would have been in his possession. But as Heather, Annabelle, and their friends walked by, they heard a deafening scream, and the busker robot soon ran away, holding his crotch and erasing the delusion he was anything other than a human. In the confusion, he forgot his box of money, so the kid with the stick picked it up and walked in the other direction. A new budget for a new year, I guess. You are listening to Greenwood and Company on KCTS. The morning. A time to watch the sunrise, enjoy your morning tea, and beat yourself to death as you work to conquer the day. The world would rather you miss your breakfast, but instead of waking before sunrise to make time for the tedium of bacon and eggs, why not fast forward your breakfast with Sunrise Jiggle Gelatin Breakfasts? Our aspic cups come packed with an assortment of eggs, fruit, and cereal to ensure you're getting all the major food groups. Try bacon strawberry with bran flakes, raisin sausage, and if burning your mouth with coffee isn't enough, try our orange Tabasco with andouille and Fruit Loops for that classic New Orleans taste. Sunrise Jiggle Gelatin Breakfasts, a quick and easy path to nutritious breakfasts or making it easier to quit breakfast. Available at Giggett supermarkets and other subpar retailers. Not a product I'd want myself, but they do give a very nice stipend. Just ignore the first part I said. Support for Greenwood and Company comes from the Society for Cats with Mathematics Test Anxiety, the Used Car Salesman Plaid Sport Coat Foundation, and DecorRejects.com, an exclusive online retailer of broken vases, beat-up furniture, and poorly exposed photographs, all at prices to meet your budget. DecorRejects.com, because trash deserves to sell too. Well, With a new year comes New Year's resolutions, but I've noticed, and I believe I've done some research and statistics prove this, you could probably do the research on your own, that most New Year's resolutions don't usually pan out. So I decided to explore this phenomenon in a New Year's resolution poem. Some people, once the midnight hour strikes, determine new directions which to steer, to change their diet, lift up higher weights, quitting habits, conquering their fears. Yet many still will face the resignation, their goals won't carry on throughout the year. Within the first few days of January, many folks forget their worthy goals. Some persevere and last a little longer, but still for them, in time, the bell will toll. How sad those pile of dying resolutions weigh so heavy on the human soul. It is perhaps a lack of motivation, triggering propensity to quit, or do we fear a crippling imperfection, bullying and weakening our grit? Or maybe it is blinding us to wants, selecting goals, in truth, which barely fit. A worthy resolution brings one joy, in present days as well as days to be, for if you love your doings in the moment, strong changes for the better you will see. Though resolutions often pose a challenge, the best in resolutions set you free. That brings an end to this week's Greenwood & Company. Our show was created and hosted by yours truly and was written by him along with James Salison and Minnesota Martinez. The engineer is Ivan Crosby. Jonas Andrews answers the phones even though we don't take calls on this program. The theme was composed by Martin Landstrom, and our costumes are provided by Grandma's Garage Thrift Shop. All the characters, settings, and situations depicted in this program, along with all advertised products, are entirely fictional, and any similarities to products, events, or persons, living or dead, is entirely coincidental. Also, KCTS is not an actual radio station. Be sure to visit our website at JamisonGreenwoodPodcast.com to learn more about Greenwood & Company, and make sure to follow us on the podcast platform of your choice and share with your friends on social media. Just a reminder to please be careful if you are going out on the 101, the 17, or Route 66 tonight. I'm Jamison Greenwood, and until we meet again, stay healthy, stay safe, and stay young at heart. Good night. This is KCTS FM Phoenix. Stay tuned for Lacking in Substance.